Hello everybody, I am Rue and this is my cozy corner of booktube, Rue with the Books. I finally started reading The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan earlier this year, and I plan to document my entire journey with reviews for every single book in the series as I go on. A word of warning to the impatient, I hit my goal of 2 books this year, and I will be reading 3 a year until I am done. So this series is going to be quite a long-standing group of reviews for this channel, as I believe I'll be done in a whopping, 4 years? Yeah. It's a big series, and I'm in absolutely no rush to finish it, because, there are no more Wheel of Time books coming out. I want to enjoy it without burning myself out, so that's my word of warning for you. If you love The Wheel of Time and are excited to see some more reviews from myself for this series, press the like button and subscribe as well while you're at it. I would love for you wheelies to join the Rue with the Books community. Grab a beverage, get comfy, and let's talk about The Great Hunt. One of my minor criticisms for the first book was its lack of plot. It didn't bother me too much, but it's something just kind of nagging at me at the back of my mind. And I just wasn't really that big of a fan of the main characters just running away from the enemies all for the entire book. I would have preferred a stronger plot to support everything else that was going on. In this book, book 2 that is, the Great Hunt for the Horn of Valir is called by the people of Ilion. The Aes Sedai, knowing that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, subtly try and send him off to go hunt for it, so that he can kind of naturally garner all of the support from loads of different people in the world. And the Aes Sedai want to maneuver Rand to more naturally find allies, as well as for him to find that, goated, amazing, powerful relic, fated for its use in the battle against the Dark One. However, in addition to the main characters searching for the horn, so is the new big bad of the series. He's not the main villain, the main big bad, but kind of like a general in his army, and it devolves into a bit of a cat and mouse game of who can own this horn by the pivotal moments. The plot in this book still sees our characters making large scale adventures across this absolute behemoth of a world, but what I appreciated this time is that there was actually purpose to it. We already had our first rodeo of the characters exploring all of these different cities in the first book, but now we get to see even more new locations with new characters and groups of people and the likes. The pacing of the plot was a little bit slow, but once again, I genuinely don't mind. I think taking all of these detours to see what different characters are doing was a nice way to break up the monotony of kind of sticking to one singular POV for too long. Especially when, a certain POV's gonna tend to have its highs and lows. A character can't just have all of these crazy, epic, exciting moments non-stop. So switching to these characters to kind of get these maybe more exciting moments and skip out a little bit, not all, but a little bit of the boring stuff does tend to serve its purpose. The culmination of the entire plot towards the end of the book was absolutely spectacular. Robert Jordan set up everything so well, lined up all of those pieces of the jigsaw so that he could just kind of piece everything together right at the end. The trials and tribulations of various characters led them to organically end up at the same place, and the way that it all just plays out at the end is so incredibly satisfying. The slow burn of everything played out incredibly well. If the ending sucked, it would have left a very sour taste in my mouth, but honestly, I'm just so satisfied with everything. Rand and various characters all get their moments. We had a very shocking twist about one of the party that kind of changed everything. It was just all so good. Man, I love that ending, and I hope that it's not the best in the series because I have a long way to go, and it'd be a shame if the peak of the series was so early. Robert Jordan proves that he is a master of setting up his characters for these long-running sub-stories. Rand's sub-story is obvious. It's the hero's journey with its kind of his reluctant rise to power and fame, Rand certainly does make leaps and bounds in this book in terms of progressing his character. He's still, for the most part, the same person, sticking to his ideals, and he knows his limits, but he's kind of battling his status as the Dragon Reborn. He has a gift for a specific power, but using it could make him go insane, and then he would have to be gentled by the Aes Sedai, which he doesn't want to happen. So it's a very interesting situation of, does he use his power and risk the consequences, or does he, try and find alternative ways to go about the situation? Everything has its kind of risks and rewards, pros and cons. So I really hope that Rand, over the course of the series, does find an answer, and that he can end up using his power for the betterment of the world. I do find it quite a shame that he has the potential to be one of the strongest magic users in this series, but using his power could lead to some devastating consequences. I'm very, very interested into how the sub-story will play out. Is he destined for a cruel fate, or will he find a way to harness his power and lift the curse? We see Nynaeve and Egwene begin their training as Aes Sedai recruits. The Aes Sedai are very interesting characters because themselves as a coven are incredibly prone to politics. I'm curious as to how Nynaeve and Egwene will end up being sucked into this world of politics and intrigue and posturing and delivering, as well as how their powers as fresh Aes Sedai will grow. I do absolutely love seeing the powers of our main characters grow over the course of the series, and I'm hoping that Robert Jordan will continue to grow these characters and their powers and have it lead in a very satisfying way. Matt is still suffering from his affliction in book 1, and he has to find the cursed dagger to be able to be healed by the Aes Sedai. Otherwise, he is going to end up suffering a very, very, very unfortunate fate. This sub-story is showing that it's going to play out over the course of several books, and I like this sub-story because it's incredibly personal to one singular character. I just hope that the stakes and tension of it actually build up a bit, because Matt hasn't really had that particularly difficult of a time about it in this book. In book 1, he was definitely in a bit of a pickle, but he's been for the most part okay in book 2. So as I kind of said, I'm hoping that this kind of ticking time bomb thing does end up kind of growing and growing and growing, and we do get that desperation and that kind of forced action from Matt or the people that he's partying with. Tyrion has one of the most interesting and nuanced sub-stories in this book. He has a gift and he is making use of it, but to be honest, there really isn't any direction established as to where his sub-story will go. So I'm very interested to find out the kind of direction that Robert Jordan had in mind for him and where he does go with it. And I do also enjoy the wolf powers in fantasy, even if it is a bit of an overdone trope. For me, it just doesn't really get old, but maybe it will one day. Maybe it just hasn't grated down enough on me as of yet. We do also have sub-stories for some of the more minor characters in this book. I'm not going to mention one because it's a little bit of a spoiler based on book 1, but we do also follow Loyal in this book, as he is a companion for the party. Man, I really like this guy. He is overly likable, and I really hope that nothing bad happens to him, because it's a little bit of a trope that, the good guys, the most likable guys, well, they're in for a bad time one day or another. I think he's a really, really cool addition to the party because he's the only non-human traveling with the lads, and he gives a glimpse into an entirely different culture. We also get the addition of a new Aes Sedai in this book, building up the political scheming and a tease of the Black Ajah. We aren't explicitly told who the Black Ajah are, but I assume that they are dark friends that have essentially infiltrated the Aes Sedai and are working against them for the Dark One. There are many more minor characters in this book, mainly friends of Rand and Nynaeve and Egwene, that become present as the story unfolds. Somebody very interesting and mysterious that joins up with Rand in a new dimension. I found to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of her, because she, well, kind of just disappeared. And there's also these expedition members of the Hunt that Rand ends up joining with in their kind of search for the Great Horn of Valir. So all of the characters in this book had their place, and I enjoyed them all, and I can kind of see that, oh, just a little bit at a time, Robert Jordan is setting up these pieces that will kind of play important roles potentially in the endgame. Robert Jordan really upped his character game in this book, and I enjoyed it a heck of a lot as a character-focused reader. We get further additions to world building in this book, and they come in various shapes and sizes. The first thing we find out about is the Great Horn of Valir, which is a powerful relic that essentially anybody has the ability to use so long as they find it. And it allows them to summon a great set of heroes from the past to help battle against hordes of enemies, or the Dark One for them. I think that in principle, this is a really cool relic with an awesome use case, and I'm excited to see it used in kind of more important battles in the future. Though through its use, we actually get to meet some of these great heroes from the past, and they open up an avenue for us to learn more about the history of this big, colossal world. We also encounter these magic stones from the Age of Legends that allows people to teleport around to different dimensions. Their use has been somewhat limited so far in this book, but we do get a glimpse of how it works, and also the kind of technology that, or things in general, that the people had access to in the Age of Legends, which is, you know, a time long, long gone. And considering how large this world is, cutting corners, traveling with a kind of fast travel system is super handy. So while we haven't seen it used too much, I'm sure it's going to be something absolutely pivotal that cuts out hundreds of pages worth of time of them traveling through the same old boring terrain. It's quite a genius system that Robert Jordan has come up with, because it does allow us to see new environments and new dimensions, different places, different monsters, different things. But it does cut out the boring parts and gives us new, fresh things. I will talk a little bit more about it in the magic system, but magic is a hugely important feature of the world building in this book. And magic has had a slight increase in focus, which kind of helps shape the world and our perception of it. We witness some of the new cities and settlements in this book which all have their own cultures. We see the politics of these places in action and witness, for the first time, the Great Game, which is played by nobility and important people of major cities in this world. It opens up a new kind of direction in which we can build a danger, intrigue, and see the formation of alliances as well as their downfall with brutal betrayals. With this, we see how the nobility act in this world and how the upper echelons of society treat the world, power, and its influence as a big game to be played. So that's a very kind of interesting new avenue in which we see the world building in this series. There's a short segment in this book in which we see an Ogier settlement. So we finally get to meet other people that are of the same race as Loyal. And this section is very short and sweet. But we do get to see how the Ogier kind of work as a culture, as well as how they are rooted in the history and lore of the world. So yeah, to summarize, Robert Jordan progresses the world building in many different avenues in this book, and they all help me feel incredibly immersed in this world as I was just reading through the pages. It's absolutely masterful world building, and it's probably one of the richest worlds that I have had the pleasure of experiencing so far. There are a lot of POVs in this book, and only a small handful of them give us further glimpses into the magic system within this book. Rand, as the Dragon Reborn, is able to tap into the One Source to use magic, but he is a bit of an unwilling participant, let's say, because he's scared of going crazy and getting gentled, like I mentioned earlier. However, there are moments in this book when his back is forced against the wall and he has to use magic, as unwilling as he is. He mainly uses the one source as a kind of support tool that gives him increased focus and reflexes, letting him do seemingly quite superhuman things. The main avenues through which we get to see magic being used are through the Aes Sedai, and by proxy, mostly Egwene and Nynaeve. They were wisdoms of Edmund's Field, so they were already using magic before they joined the Aes Sedai by being able to read the wind, which is a kind of more subtle and nuanced form of its use, but in this book they do take the time to train in Tar Valon under the Aes Sedai teachers, and we see how the natural progression of its use is. I won't go too far into it with everything that they did in this book, but by the endgame I'm sure that they will be absolutely masterful magic users. The limit of magic use in this world seems incredibly high, with Aes Sedai being able to do practically anything: channel the elements, summon weaponry, control people. There are still avenues that are untapped, like potentially transforming into animals, but I can see those things potentially being possible too, or kind of maybe borrowing certain strengths from different animals and channeling it for themselves. Maybe Robert Jordan won't go into that direction, I don't know, I'm just very much speculating here. With how limitless the magic system in this book is, it opens up so many avenues for which the action could go in. With such a large and open sandbox to play in, practically anything is possible. It's a kind of soft magic system, although I've been told it does get harder over time, so I guess I'm a bit wrong there, but anyway, if you don't want to read too much into the rules, you know, it's not super duper Sandersonian, especially when there is so much world building to soak in, then good news for you. With just how big and grand this world is and how much time the characters spend traversing it, the action at times can be few and far between. I definitely do prefer that though to just overloading a reader with way too much action, because in my opinion, if you're forcing the same uses of magic and, you know, the same sword battles and everything, it does get a little bit stale and repetitive. As an example, I wasn't the biggest fan of Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne for those reasons, although I think I am definitely a kind of anomaly in the crowd there, because a lot of people do put it as one of their top series. So anyway, goes to show we all have different tastes, and for me, I'm not the biggest fan of just overloading things with action, just considering action and action and action into the pages. I like to kind of get a bit of variety and see everything else that an author could potentially have to offer. However, when action does rear its head, it's written incredibly well. Those moments feel epic and exciting because, you know, you've been anticipating that something will finally go down, and when it does, let's go, it's fantastic. The world feels very turbulent and unpredictable, so you never actually do know when things are bound to start going down. So when, you know, randomly stuff happens, it's always such a pleasure and a delight to read. The action in this book is snappy, and it doesn't tend to overstay its welcome with hugely overdone sequences. The action just simply finds its pocket and then delivers these beautiful sequences, and then, you know, we just move on to the next thing. So I liked the action in this book, and I found that it was very well done for me. So, Book 2 in the Wheel of Time continues to play to its strengths, delivering amazing world building, further developing the characters and giving us glimpses of what various characters' sub-stories will be. I loved the addition of an actual plot because it just simply really drives the stakes and action, and it gets you more invested as to whether the characters will succeed or fail in what they are striving to do, their missions. This aspect was a huge and colossal improvement over book 1 for me. If I'm being real, my main gripe in this book was Rand's attitude. He is a bit whiny and overly paranoid for my tastes. I did have some eye-rolling moments reading stuff from his POV, but that really is my main gripe. He is the main character, the one destined to defeat the Dark One, and I want to like him more than I do because everything rests on his shoulders. The action was short and snappy, fitting into these perfect pockets so that it's not overdone and overstays its welcome. One of the only other authors that I have read that has this perfect ability to pace this action is Fonda Lee, and in similar way, her work also has this large focus on world building and characters too. I really enjoyed this book, and it only made me more and more interested and excited in reading more of The Wheel of Time. I was originally scared of reading this series with how long it is, but this book really set my fears aside because I was enjoying it so much. Overall, I rate this book 4 or 4.5 stars out of 5. Really Rand was my only issue in this book and was what let it down for me a little bit. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have made it this far, I hope that you get to experience another culture soon, because we all do love a holiday. If you liked this video and haven't done so already, please press the like button to show the algorithm who's boss. And also consider subscribing to the Rue of the Books channel to get more of my weekly uploads in your subscription feed. If you would be interested in connecting with me outside of YouTube, I have links to my TikTok, my Instagram, my Goodreads, and my Storygraph in the description below. Anyway, until next time, Rue out.